Hey everyone, welcome back. Hope you guys are having a great weekend. It's Sunday now. I was supposed to record this video yesterday, but I was helping a family member move, so I was just too tired to do it last night. So we're doing it this morning. It's about 7:30 in the morning. We're going to go through a video that I promised you guys I would do earlier this week, which was going to be on taking a look where Bitcoin miners could be possibly at the all-time highs of Bitcoin with the next bull cycle if we have the spot Bitcoin ETF happening on. Right, when we looked at this video over here, let me see here. Was the video on spot Bitcoin ETF impact on BTC price. This was, I think, on Wednesday when it went out, Wednesday or Tuesday of this past week. So we're going to take a look at what that actually means for where the miners could possibly be at the all-time highs at 278, 77,000, roughly right around there. And also at 188, which was my original estimate at the beginning of this year where I thought Bitcoin could possibly go. Okay, so, but always, you guys know the drill here. This is not financial advice for entertainment only. Please do your own research. I'm invested in following coins and companies for full disclosure. And if you enjoy this type of content, hit the like button, subscribe, helps me out tremendously. So let's get back into it. So if we look at the numbers here that we do have, based on that information, so Bitcoin going up to 288,000 and things like that, this was part of that video here. We looked at the possibilities of Bitcoin going up, well, if the funds invest 0.5% of all of their assets under management and then 1% also. And we looked at it both ways. One, if it was just only the companies that were trying to get the spot Bitcoin ETF. And then we also looked at pretty much the whole world funds that had assets under management, which the numbers were up here. And I think the assets of everybody here, world ETF funds, was like excuse me, was a lot higher. Where it was $98 trillion for the world. For the funds that are trying to get to the ETF, it was only like $15 trillion. Still a sizable amount, but we did the numbers there and we kind of came up with that possibly with everybody invested and a 5x roll-on effect, we're looking at $278,000 for Bitcoin possibly as the all-time high this bull cycle, possibly. We don't know if it's going to happen, but that's kind of what we're kind of looking at as a possibility, okay? Now, got to go back here. So knowing all that, I'm going to explain some of the numbers that I used here going forward. So there are obviously a lot of assumptions here. We know that we're going to have the Bitcoin halving event here sometime in April of next year. During this time of frame, I'm thinking that Bitcoin possibly could go down a little bit more before the end of the year. And the reason for that is, number one, obviously the spot Bitcoin ETF is not in sight yet. We know that they're planning to possibly approve it within the next 4 to 6 months. That will get us closer to the time frame of when we're actually looking to have the Bitcoin halving event. Also, we have the student loans right now going into effect next month where people are going to start paying on that as well. That's going to take a lot of cash out of the market. So we might be coming down there. Obviously, taxes are way up there. Interest rates are way up there as well. That's obviously putting a pretty big dent in the markets as well. And there's just a lot of uncertainty right now. So that's kind of why I'm thinking Bitcoin possibly could go down. Now, if we get the spot Bitcoin ETF anytime between now and the end of the year, well, that's going to obviously change things. But here's what we have right now. So August, right now, we were at about 27,000 on average for Bitcoin. September, right now, we're looking at 25,000. Then we go down to 24,000 in October, 22,000 in November, 20,000 in December before we turn things around possibly and start going up in the upward direction to where we end up in April at around 23,000. We could be up higher than that. This is, like I said, this is an estimate. It all depends on where Bitcoin goes. Right now, we've been kind of trading sideways with Bitcoin for a while here, and it looks like it wants to go down a little bit more. That's why I'm thinking we might go this route. Now, if it goes up higher than this, well, all the better. And we might actually reach the 278,000 or the 188,000, which were my original thoughts, a lot earlier maybe than the 480 days roughly out after the halving event that I'm kind of thinking, which is usually kind of the estimate. Some say the estimate is, depending on when you calculate the bottom of the bull cycles or the bear cycles and the tops, you're looking anywhere between 500 some odd days to 400 some odd days. So I just put 480 as the average between those numbers. Excuse me. Okay. Oop, didn't want to go there. Wanted to do this. So then here we go. So here's what happens with Bitcoin. So let's see here. May we start going back up in value to around 27,000, June 30,000, and it just keeps going up higher and higher on this. And I did this for both the 188,000 and the 277,000 possibilities. The network hash rate. The network hash rate I think is going to continue going up here through possibly until the halving event, which is in April. So we could be possibly at around an average 30-day average of 419. Believe this is billion terahashes or million terahashes. 419 million terahashes. And then after that, we've seen it with other halving cycles where the network hash rate actually goes down because the miners that have the less efficient machines, the older ones, the ones that are probably under 100 terahash or less, are going to be turning those off because, well, it's going to cost them double to what it costs to mine, and they're not going to be profitable at that point. So typically we see a reduction in the network hash rate when that does happen. So I do have that going for about 4 months in reduction afterwards, and then obviously Bitcoin price by that time will be up higher, making it once again profitable possibly for some of those miners to get back on. It just all depends where Bitcoin goes, and then network hash rate continues to go back up higher, and we end up here at the end of the year here at roughly $190,000, or at the end of July 2025, which would be about 480 days after the halving event. Bitcoin would be at 190,000, close to the 188 that I said, and hash rate would be around 476 million terahashes. So that would be an increase in the network hash rate by about, what is that? We started out at roughly, well, 419. So what is it going to be, about 30% increase from there, somewhere around there, 40%. I'm doing the math in my head here really quick, but that's kind of what I'm looking at. Okay. And then I did all the numbers here for everybody here as far as their hash rate is, what their hash rate is going to be by the end of the year. So I'm thinking all of these guys will be at their fully installed hash rate by the end of this year, and then pretty much not install anything. The other thing is Bitcoin, not Bitcoin, but nobody dilutes during this time frame, so all the shares stay the same. If they dilute, things will change on the numbers for them. What else was there that I wanted to point out? I think that's it for now. But I did use all their future hash rate things. Also, a couple things to note, and I'll point this out later on. There's some of these guys, like Marathon right now reported they're going to be possibly diluting 26 million shares. I added that share count into it as well. Core Scientific is another one that's going to be possibly diluting shares when they get out of the bankruptcy. Don't know how much they're going to be diluting, but I did 50% on that dilution. It could be up higher, it could be up lower, but that's kind of what I'm basing things on for them as well. So you guys know that. And I think that's it. And then this is obviously the 277,000 or 288,000 or 78,000 that I had. 277,000 at the end of the year. Oh, not the end of the year. At the end of July in 2025. And the network hash rate would be the same there. So I think I pretty much built the groundwork for you guys to understand where I'm coming from with all these numbers. So let's get into the actual numbers for everybody here, and we'll discuss everybody here one at a time. The chart above, you can see here that the network hash rate, like I said, continues to go up before the halving event. After the halving, it actually goes down for a couple months, somewhere between 3 and 5 months. I have it at 4 months right now, and then it goes back up because Bitcoin price starts going up, meaning that those unprofitable miners will be now possibly profitable, and they'll turn those machines on as well, and we'll get the increase in network hash rate continuing until the all-time high here. And then here's the price of both the 278,000 and the 200 and the 188,000 lines. You can see how those all work out. And then here we'll take a look at the individual miners here, and we'll also get into some of their details as well, so we can kind of discuss them in a little bit more detail than just pointing things out here. Okay, so first one I bet is obviously Argo. Will go alphabetically in order in these guys, and then you guys can see all the details for each one. Argo right now is $1.10, market cap 58 million, shares outstanding 53 million. Future hash rate is supposed to be about 2.6, maybe a little bit higher than that, 2.7 that they might get to. I'm using a PE of 5 for them right now because they just don't have a lot of growth left in them. Market cap at the all-time high possibly for them when Bitcoin reaches the 277,000 possibly. And if they don't dilute, they could be at 406 million in market cap. And then you can see the price targets here. If Bitcoin gets to 50% gross profit for them at 188,000, we're looking at $3.49. At 75% gross profit, $5.24. 50% gross profit at $277,000, $5.06. And then $277,000 at 75% gross profit, $7.59. The average on that is $5.34. And then here's the X increase, or the multiple increase from where they are right now. For the low would be 3.2, which we're looking at this number here. And then the high would be obviously the 759. That would be a 6.9 X increase from where they are. And then the average would be 4.9. So still relatively good, 500% roughly. You could possibly get on Argo if things work out this way. One other thing to note, and I'm just going to note it here once, that anytime we get into a bull market, the PE multiples can increase dramatically here for all of these miners. Some of these miners like I have here at 5, 10, 15 even 20 PE, they can double from where those numbers are because there's just a lot of euphoria in the markets. People are FOMOing in, and those numbers just can pretty much double. So if you want to look at what the possibility of a true high is on this, I'm doing this kind of conservatively here, but you could pretty much double these numbers here in a raging bull market where things just go parabolic and crazy. And so at that point, you'd be looking at almost $15 for the high here for Argo, which would be almost a 10x, right? So you can kind of look at the numbers here that way as well. And you can do that for all of them as I point this stuff out. Okay, over here are on the charts, the same things that you saw up here, and then the low and the high average multiple X increases are on this chart here. So you can kind of get a feel for how things look visually here. And let's take a look at Argo here. Some things I want to talk about them really quick here. We'll take a look at their financial health as well. So their financial health right now is not that great. Debt to equity is actually negative 41, and that's based on some numbers that they provided here that are just way out there. Current ratio is also very low. We want that to be above 1 at least. It's been coming down here, so that's also kind of worrisome for them. Okay, other thing, cost to mine 1 Bitcoin is high for them. It's 28,703. Basically, they would need Bitcoin to be at 56,000 roughly at the halving event to be basically break even at that point. And even at that point, they'd still be probably losing money because of the other overhead. Okay, you can see the Bitcoin mined quarterly is not that much. They've been pretty much stuck at 2.5 exahash, which is tough for them. And then if we look at also their efficiency per miner here, we can take a look at, I calculated it's about 30.91, so it isn't too bad, but they do have some of the older miners here that they probably need to get rid of, the 95 terahash miners, before the halving event, okay? And we'll do this for everyone here so you guys can kind of see where they stack up. A lot of people are saying that 30 joules per terahash is going to be the line in the sand, basically, where miners could be profitable at the halving event or not, okay? So those are some of the concerns that we have for Argo here. Next, let's take a look at Digital. So Digital right now is at $2.13, market cap 181,000 or 181 million, sorry. Shares outstanding 85 million. Future hash rate 2.1. Not a lot of growth left in them. P of 10 because they do have some growth, but not too much left. At the high end, it could be about 830 million in market cap. On the low end, we're looking at $4.49 to $6.74. On the higher end, we're looking at $6.51 to $9.76. The average would be 688. The low multiple would be 2.1, the high would be 4.6, and the average would be 3.2. You can also, like I said, double that pretty much if we get into a really good bull market. And that's the way things would stack up for them. Other than that, you guys can take a look at the other things here. Let's take a look at Digital here really quick as well. Their balance sheet is actually pretty good. That's actually really, really good here. So debt to equity is 0.09, which is fantastic. Current ratio is also really good here at 10.3. So they have 10 times the assets to pay off current liabilities, which is great. The only thing is their cost to mine BTC is kind of high up there at 17.79 at the end of Q2 here. And if we look at let's take a look at their hash rate or joules per terahash efficiency, they're at 27.19, which is actually pretty good. So they should be in pretty good shape going into the halving event. The only thing that they really have to do is really get their costs down as far as per Bitcoin mined and possibly grow a little bit more than that. Okay, that's Digital. Next, let's take a look at BitDeer here. BitDeer right now is at $6.42, market cap 1.2 billion. Shares outstanding is almost 200 million. Future hash rate, and this is, I don't know exactly what the future hash rate is going to be, but this is a combination of their self-mining and hosting because they are actually profitable on hosting. And the only thing that I changed for them here is because they do have hosting, that does bring down their profit margin a little bit here. So I have them going at 35% gross profit for the low end and 55% for the high end. So that's a change that I made there just to kind of make things a little bit more accurate for them at least. Because we are combining both. Usually we're only looking at the self-mining, but because they do have that much income from the hosting as well, that's the way I did it. So high end, we're looking at current PE of 15 because I do think they might be growing a little bit more. Market cap would be about 13 billion at that point at the high end. And on the low end, price targets would be between $29 and $45. On the higher end, we're looking at $42 and $66, right? At the average, $45, so we're looking at a 4.5 increase to a 10.3 increase or a 7.1 multiple increase, roughly. Okay. Now, BitDeer, let's take a look at them here, or BitDeer. Their debt to equity has increased here. It's over 1. I'd like to see that come down to at least below that. But their current ratio is still pretty good. They still have about 8 times the assets to pay off current debt, so that's not a big deal. Cost to mine Bitcoin has come up here to 15,000 based on my calculations. Their Bitcoin mine quarterly has increased, and their hash rate has also increased as well recently, which is good to see. And then as far as what their efficiency here is going to possibly be, let's see if we can get these numbers correctly here. That actually, let me see here, if we're pulling in the correct numbers here. Yep. Okay, so we are currently pulling in the right numbers. And I'm at 12 point, that doesn't make any sense here. Why does that not make any sense here? 9851 times 1,000. I'll have to look into this, but this doesn't make any sense for, oh, hosting. I'm not including hosting in here as well. At least I don't think I am. Let me see. Hosting. Yeah, I don't know what their hosting is going to be like as far as that number is concerned. Let's see here. Let's do that. I'm guessing it's going to be, well, I'll do an estimate here on this one, but not sure for a fact. So based on this, they would be at 32.99, so that makes a little bit more sense if they have the 93 terahash miners in there as well. Those are a little bit less efficient. These miners here might be a little bit more efficient than the 3250 watts per that, but I just don't know. So even if we change those up to give them the 3050, maybe a little bit more efficient than the other ones, that still gets us to, looks like 32.1 at that point. Because these here are 97 terahash, yeah. So they're going to be pretty close to 30 joules per terahash on that one. So that might be a little tough for them, but they do have a pretty good balance sheet on that. I think they won't have a problem getting through the bear market, but they would need Bitcoin obviously to be around 30,000 at that point. Okay. Next is going to be Bitfarms. Bitfarms is $1.22 right now. Market cap 315. Shares outstanding 258 million. Future exahash, they're saying that they're going to get to 9. I have them at 7.85, which is what is being reported right now. PE of 15 because they do have some growth left in them, so that's pretty good. Future market cap could be around 4.6 billion. And then obviously the low price targets would be $8.32 to $12.48. On the higher end, we're looking at $12.05 to $18 possibly. The average would be $12.73. So the X multiple would be 6.8 for the low end, 14.8 on the high end, and then the average would be 10.4, right around there. And that's the way things stack up for them. And if we look at Bitfarms really quick, Bitfarms right now has a good debt to equity ratio, so the balance sheet is pretty good. The current ratio has also been improving here, which is nice to see. They're at 1.9, so almost 2 times being able to pay off their current debt. Their cost to mine one Bitcoin has increased here to 16,000, so they would need Bitcoin to be about 32,000 at the halving. And let's take a look at their joules per terahash numbers here. Their joules per terahash numbers are going to be at about 30.86. And I believe that includes all of the, 30.86. So they're going to be right on that line, pretty close to where things are going to start getting possibly a little painful for some of these. So that's not including some of these older miners that they have, which is said that they're going to get rid of to be more efficient on things. But that still gets me to about 30.86 based on that. Okay. So they're going to be pretty close to that line there. They still need to probably increase their hash rate like they said they're going to do and get more efficient miners installed. But other than that, I don't have any issues with them. They do have a little bit of a hodl position as well. If we look at it, and yeah, they have a little bit of a hodl. So I think they're going to be okay going into the halving event. Next is going to be Cipher. So Cipher is at $3.01. Market cap is at 766 million right now. Shares outstanding is 254 million. Future hash rate is going to be about 7.36. They still have a little bit of growth left in them, not too much left. But I'm using a PE of 15 for them, and the market cap is going to be at the high end, possibly about 3.8 billion. So the low end price target is $6.94 to $10.41. On the higher end, $10.05 to $15.07. The average would be $10.62. The low multiple would be 2.3. The higher multiple would be 5, and then the average would be 3.5. And then, like I said, with all of these, if things go really well, you could definitely almost double this somewhere in there. Okay. Let's take a look at Cipher here really quick on their financials and things like that. Debt to equity is really good shape, 0.21, so that's good. And their current ratio has been coming down here, which is a little bit concerning. They still have enough to basically pay their current liabilities with current assets, so that's not too bad there. Their cost to mine one Bitcoin is still pretty good, 12.6 in Q2. It was 8.63, but still pretty good. So they would need Bitcoin about 24,000, 25,000 at the halving event to be basically at least profitable on gross margin there. And then if we look at their efficiency on the fleet, they're currently at 30.73, it looks like. And that is based on, am I using all the numbers? Yep. Okay, so I'm using all the numbers there, 30.73. They do have a lot of these M30 miners, and they're getting some of these Q3 miners here as well. Let's see, what else do they have here? I don't know exactly what they have. M30S pluses, M30Ss. They're not as efficient, unfortunately, as some of the Bitmain miners are. And that's why we're seeing at 30.73. So they're also going to be right at that pretty much border there at 30 joules per terahash as well. Okay. Next, let's take a look at Cleanspark. So Cleanspark right now is at $4.40. Market cap 671 million. Shares outstanding 152 million. Future hash rate 16. I have them at 17, but they said they're going to get rid of some of the older miners as well to be more efficient. P multiple of 20. They're currently at 9.3 exahash, I think, something like that. Future market cap potential would be around 12.6 billion for them. Price targets for them on the low end would be 38.24 on the high end, or on the low end 57.36 for the higher end of it, and then on the high end at 277,000 for Bitcoin, we're looking at $55.40 to $83.10. The average would be about $58.53, and as always, based on the average of all four numbers here. The low multiple would be 8.7x increase. The high end multiple would be 18.9, and the average would be 13.3. And like I said, Bitcoin goes up really high, really well. These guys could get a higher multiple like everybody else here, so you could almost double those numbers, or maybe do a increase that by 25%, even more, 50%, something like that, to get a little bit higher number possibly. But I'm being conservative on this. Okay, and that's the way things stack up for them. Let's take a look at their numbers here. So Cleanspark debt to equity has been coming down, which is good to see. Their current ratio has also been increasing, which is good to see as well. So I think financially they're doing okay there. There's no issues there. Their cost to mine one Bitcoin has been pretty steady, right around the 12,000 mark. And they're currently at 12.73K, so they would need Bitcoin to be about 15.4, or not 15.4, 25.4K for Bitcoin right now. Let's take a look at their efficiency on the fleet here. Their efficiency is at 24.97 once everything is installed. They do have some of these older miners here, like the 95 terahash, 96, 98. They said that they're going to be getting rid of those. And then the 88 and the 86 terahash miners as well. Those will be obviously taken offline here eventually. And then that's how they're going to be at right around 24.97. So really good efficiency there for them. And that's a result of them buying a lot of these Ant miners, the XPs here. That definitely helped increase that. And then also having the 100 terahash XPs as well, or not S19s. Okay, so that's based on that. And they've also been increasing their HODL position, which is good to see as well. So I don't see a problem with them going through the halving event. Next is going to be Core Scientific. So Core right now is at 77 cents. Market cap is at 289,000 or 289 million. Shares outstanding is 375. This is what it currently is. I'm using the actually multiplying this number by 1.5. I'm getting 500. And if you look at Core, should be, oh, it's not in here, but it is over here, I think. Oh, where did I do it? I know I did it somewhere over here. Core Scientific, 563 million. So that's kind of what I'm using there after the halving event, if that goes through. Okay, so I just want to point that out. And yep, so shares outstanding would be higher than that. Future exahash, they haven't provided. I know that they're going to be buying some miners from Bitmain, which they are going to be also putting in cash for, and then some shares into it as well. That's if the deal goes through with the restructuring of their bankruptcy. That would get them up to, I believe, 18.21 exahash for their. This is just for the self-mining. And then the reason I'm using that for the self-mining, because historically, hosting has not been profitable for them. It has gotten better for them. It's like, I think now 10% or something like that. Profit margin, something like that. So it's gotten better, but still their self-mining is the real bread and butter here for them as far as revenue generation is concerned. P of 10 because not a lot of growth left. Market cap at the higher end, we could be at 3.8 billion. That's, yeah, 3.8 billion. And I think that should be higher based on the number here. If I'm using, I'm using the current market cap. Which at that point might be higher. So this number could definitely change for them. On the low end, we're looking at $4.68 to $7.02. On the higher end, $6.78 to $10.17. Average would be $7.16. And then the low would obviously be, the multiple would be 6.1. On the higher end, 13.2. Average would be 9.3. Okay, now obviously the concern for Core Scientific is their bankruptcy right now. They're saying that they're trying to get out of that before, or trying to get it, well, yeah, before the end of October this year. We'll see if that happens. It might take a little bit more time than that, but we'll see. Concerns are obviously debt to equity ratio. They do have a lot of debt. That's why they're in bankruptcy right now. Current ratio is pretty bad as well, but it has been getting better, so that's good to see there. Their cost to mine Bitcoin has also been kind of coming down here, which is kind of nice to see as well. It's down to 19,000 right now based on my calculations. So they need Bitcoin to be about 38,000 right now for them to be profitable at that point. So that's kind of rough there. And then as far as their efficiency on the miners, they have a lot of these, I believe these are the S19s, but they're not the greatest efficiency here. They're about 30.81. And then like I said, in August, they're going to be buying miners here. And I probably should, it does have the numbers in here. Oh, it doesn't have it in here. So I need to update this in here. This would get them to approximately 19 exahash at the end of it. So that would actually bring them down to 24.68 based on this number coming in here as well. And then do I have that in there as well? I don't. So I need to bring in that number. So that number plus this number here. Okay, so let's see, where does that bring us in? 28.99. That's still pretty good there based on all of this. And we're using all that. Okay, yeah, so 28.99. So that's still pretty good. That's still under the 30 joules per terahash threshold, which isn't a problem there. But obviously, like I said, their bankruptcy is the big thing. We don't know how much dilution we're going to get out of it for shareholders. So that's questionable there. Okay, but at least they're doing things in the right direction going forward. All right, next is going to be, who do we have next? Digihost. Digihost is $1 right now, market cap 28 million, out shares outstanding about 28 million right now, future hash rate 1.1. They said they're going to get to about 2 exahash by the time of halving. We haven't heard anything from them buying things up to get there. They're still working on building out their infrastructure. P, I have them at 5. Market future potential would be 206 million for them. The low end price target would be $3.32 to $4.98. On the higher end, we're looking at $4.81 to $7.21. The average would be $5.08. The multiple here would be 3.3 on the low end. On the high end, 7.2, and the average would be 5.1. So still 500% on that. But if Bitcoin goes up higher, like I said, we could possibly catch a higher PE multiple on them than the 5 that I have currently. So that's kind of what we're looking at here. Let's take a look at their numbers here really quick as well. Their debt to equity is pretty good here. It's at 0.36. Current ratio has been coming down, so that's a little bit concerning there. They have been burning through cash here, it looks like, and they're under the one threshold. So 1 is kind of where we want them to be at least at. They're at 0.63, so that has been coming down here. That is a little bit concerning there for them. Their cost to mine Bitcoin has been pretty good. It's 13.95K, so they would need Bitcoin about 28,000. And then as far as their efficiency here on their machines they're at right now 29.79 as it is for joules per terahash. So that's actually not too bad. They're under the 30 joules per terahash mark, which that should help them out going forward. The only thing that I have to work on is obviously their debt, getting that under control a little bit here. And cost to mine shouldn't be too bad, I think, but just needing really to grow going forward. Okay. Next is going to be, I believe, DMG. So DMG is at 22 cents right now, market cap 36 million, shares outstanding 167 million. Future exahash is going to be 1.23 roughly, P multiple 5. Future market cap at the high end could be about 203 million. So on the low end, price targets would be 56 cents, on the higher to 84 cents. On the high end, we're looking at 81 cents to $1.21. The average would be 85 cents for them. That would only be a 2.5 increase on the lower end. On the higher end, 5.5. Average 3.9, so still right around 400% increase. But Bitcoin goes up higher than that. We could definitely catch more than that. Okay, next, let's take a look at DMG's numbers here really quick as well. So DMG debt to equity is really good here. It's 0.068. So no concerns there. Current ratio is at 5.64. Also really good there. No concerns there. Their cost to mine 1 Bitcoin is at 15,000, which is not bad at all. It's not too. It's a little bit on the higher end, but it's still not too bad. So they would need Bitcoin about 31,000 to be at the halving. And then we look at their efficiency here on the miners. They're at 27.35, and I believe we're using all of the latest numbers. Yep. So we're using all the latest numbers here. 27.35 is actually really good here. They do have some efficient miners. They've been getting a lot of these newer miners here recently, which is nice to see. And that is just great. Okay. So really thing for them to do is just to really grow into the halving event and possibly a little bit after the halving event before Bitcoin really goes into a bull cycle here. Okay. Next is going to be Hive. Hive right now is at $3.34. Market cap 281 million. Shares outstanding 84 million. Future exahash 3.69. I think they said they want to get to 6 exahash before the halving event. Those machines have not been bought yet, so we don't know what they're going to be getting. I have a PA multiple of 15. Future market cap 2.1 billion roughly. And if we look at their price targets here on the lower end, $12 to $17.99. On the higher end, to $17.38 to $26.07. Average would be $18.36. Multiples on the low end would be 3.6. On the higher end, 7.8. On the average would be 5.5. Still really good possible returns there as well. And let's take a look at Hive here really quick. Hive right now has a good balance sheet as well. 0.33 on the debt to equity ratio. Current ratio is 3, so 3 times being able to pay off their current debts, which is great. Their cost to mine Bitcoin has increased here to 70.9 thousand here in the last quarter, which is a little high for them. They've been usually right around 12, 13,000, even lower than that. Excuse me. And I wonder if it's because of summer and everything else that's going on up in Canada, and prices have gone up there for them as well. So that might be the reason why. Sorry, I had to take a sip of water. They're all starting to get dry. So that's not, I mean, balance sheet wise, they're looking really good. As far as their efficiency on the miners, they have a lot of miners here. They're going to be at 29.66 exahash, and that is based on if they get rid of some of these older miners, which I think they are. The 90 terahash miners here that they might possibly end up getting eventually here. If they get rid of those as well, that's going to help them out. They definitely, I think they might keep the 98 terahash, but some of these 90 terahash, 87 terahash miners, those would have to go, obviously. And based on those numbers, we have them at 29.6, so they are below the 30 joules per terahash, which is good there, so really no concern there. And they are also diversifying into the AI space with GPU miners and things like that, which is going to be more, I think, not cyclical income, but it's going to be more steady income for them. It's not going to be up and down all over the place, as well as for like Hut 8 and things like that. So I don't think they're going to have a problem going into the halving event. It just all depends on where Bitcoin's at, and they'll be able to withstand any short-term possible Bitcoin price being lower than where it should be for them to be profitable at. Okay, next is going to be on Hut 8. So Hut 8 right now, this is after the merger with USBTC. So with that being said, I think right now Hut 8 is valued around 500 some million right now. Combined with the two companies, they should be valued at about 1 billion. And at that point, the Hut 8 is doing a reverse stock split, and so is USBTC. And then at that point, they should have about 98 million shares outstanding, and the price, well, the price will probably go up 5x from where it is right now, so at $11. That's kind of my estimate on it. But I think it should be pretty close. Okay, so future hash rate, 7.5 exahash, that's combined with USBTC. We don't know how much they're going to grow past that. I would think they would try to grow even more before it. The halving event, but maybe at P of 15, because I do think they're probably going to try to grow. That would give us a market cap for them on the high end at 3.7 billion here. Price targets would be $17.45 on the lower end to $26.18. And on the higher end, we're looking at $25.28 to $37.92 on the high end. And the average would be $26.71. So increase 1.6% to 3.4%, or not, sorry, 1.6x to 3.4x. And then the average would be 2.4. I think these numbers might be kind of low. I think they could probably catch a little bit more on that, basically because there are just so many different businesses that they have there. The managed hosting, the other things that they're doing, the self-mining, the hosting, the data centers and things like that. So these are just really rough estimates and very conservative numbers for them. Going forward, we'll have to see, obviously, how the numbers shake up when they do merge. How are they valued at that point? How much they're losing money or gaining money, making money on the things, what are their expenses, things like that. That will give us a little bit more numbers. So these numbers are very rough here for them. And like I said, they could easily go up, 50% from that, 100% from that, depending where Bitcoin goes and how much euphoria there is in the market. But let's take a look at Hut 8 here really quick here with USBTC being together. The numbers here for them are, let me see here, are going to be a little bit different for them. Let me see here. Custom 1 Bitcoin, this is with the numbers that we only have from Hut 8 right now. We don't have the numbers for USBTC. but that's at roughly 21,000. So they would need Bitcoin to be about 42,000 here. You can also see that their Bitcoin mine quarterly has been coming down. I'm hoping that changes once they merge with USBTC. Their debt to equity is low. It's fine. So that's 1.8 or 0.18. Current ratio is also really good at 6.9. So 7 times over, they can pay off their current debts. And then when we look at their actual efficiency on things, they're still going to be pretty high here. So before the merger with USBTC, they're going to be at 37 joules per terahash, which is really high. They have some of the older miners here, the 93 terahash, a lot of those. 90, 89 terahash based on my calculations, the 87, 96, 77 terahash miners, and then the 91, 84. And then when they get the USBTC merger, they're going to get some miners on average. I don't know exactly what they're getting, but they're getting about 4.9 exahash, and they're saying that they have 48,255 miners. That gets me to about 101 terahash per miner on average, right? I'm giving the benefit of the doubt here. I'm using pretty efficient miners here for them, 2950 watts per miner. On average, that would get them to 32.29. Now, if those miners are, I don't know what miners those are, if those are like the Cannons and the Watts miners and some of the other ones, those might not be as efficient, so that number could actually be up higher than that. So that's a concern there. That's why they need to probably update a majority of their fleet at least to the more efficient miners here going forward. So they might be spending some cash there. At least I would think they would do that, but we'll see. Okay, so that's kind of numbers that we're looking at here. I don't think they're going to have a lot of issue getting through the bear market, even with Bitcoin, cost of Bitcoin being up way up there, because they do have a huge hodl stack that they can actually weather the storm for 5-6 months, if not more, if Bitcoin is depressed in price at that point. Okay, so that's HUT 8 here. Let's take a look at Iris Energy. Iris Energy right now is at $4.67, market cap 256 million, shares outstanding 54 million, future hash rate 5.7. They could be growing more than that. They're saying that they want to get to, I believe, 9 exahash, but they haven't purchased anything yet. They do have credits, I believe, from the manufacturers to get miners at a discount. And future multiple PE 15, future market cap 3.3 billion. And that really depends on if they grow more than that, their obviously market cap will grow up higher, and so will their price targets here. But right now on the low end, $28.37 to $42.56. On the higher end to $41.10 to $61.65. The average would be $43.42. The multiple would be 6.1 on the low end, 13.2 on the high end, and the average would be 9.3. So pretty good there. But there are some concerns here with Iris Energy, and let's take a look at those right now. So Iris Energy, the good thing is Bitcoin, customizing one Bitcoin is about 10,000, so you need Bitcoin about 20,000 to having an event, which is great, which is a nice low number. Debt to equity ratio is actually not too bad. It's kind of in the middle there, 0.52. But the current ratio is way down there, 0.53. Love to see that above 1, as always, for all of these guys here. So there is some debt issues there that they need to get resolved here. Total current assets have been coming down, and then total current liabilities has actually been going up here. So that's a little bit concerned there. Other than that, the miners that they do have right now, they have a lot of these 100 terahash miners, some 90 terahash miners as well, some 95 as well. If those got possibly taken out, maybe, I don't know. I think I'm including all of those in here. I am. Am I including all those? Yes, I'm including all of those in there. If we take out maybe some of these 90 terahash miners, they might be a little bit more efficient, but they're still at 29.66 joules per terahash on average, which is really good there. And they're under the 30 joules per terahash mark, which is fine. But the big thing is obviously the debt with them. So that's got to get taken under control there for them. Okay, so that's it for that one, Iris. And let's take a look at Marathon here. Marathon, like I said, currently reported they're going to be diluting some shares, about 26 million shares to pay down some debt. That's 1% convertible notes. Those aren't due until 2026, so did a video on that. I just don't get why they're doing it now. It could be that the creditors are thinking, hey, we want to get some shares of it now before the price starts going way up so they can make even more money on it. That could be the possibility there. But right now they're at $10.91. Market cap is at 2.1 billion. Shares outstanding 200 million, so that's including the 26 million of dilution there. Future hash, exahash could be around 2.4, 2.5. They said they're going to possibly buy more miners as well to get even higher than that. We'll have to see how that comes in. So if that does increase, all of these numbers could possibly increase, but it also depends on how much they dilute. P of 20, market cap of 16.6 billion right now. And that would get us on the low end for the price target for them to $38.26 to $57.39. On the higher end, $55.43 to $83.14. Average would be $58.56. Multiple on that would be on low end 3.5 and the high end 7.6. Average would be 5.4. Like I said, But Bitcoin going up in price and value and everything else, the multiple here, we've seen it before where Marathon was getting like a 35, 40 multiple on the higher end in the bull market when we were getting close to all-time highs. So that could definitely increase. So you could almost double that, what we're seeing here potentially. Okay, this is obviously conservative numbers here, and things are very fluid in the markets. So I'm just letting you guys know there. Okay, let's take a look at Marathon here as far as their numbers are concerned. And there they are. So Marathon, debt to equity is up there, 1.28. Love to see that being even lower. But their current ratio is pretty high at 14.9. They are paying down some debt here recently, so that's good there. Their total current assets, 422 million, is great, and their total current liabilities are 28, but they do have 700 million, but they're paying off, I think, like 400 some million with this current dilution there. And then when we look at their miners here, their miners are going to be some of the most efficient, I think, in the market here at 23.04 joules per terahash. They have a bunch of these 140 terahash miners that are the XPs. And then they also have a lot of these 100 terahash miners as well. So they have bought a lot of these newer miners, but I think they also paid a premium for when they bought them. Not sure how the price fell down and were they able to capture that price if they had that in writing with the manufacturer that they're going to pay basically when the miners are delivered and not when they actually ordered them. So the price were probably coming down here as Bitcoin price was coming down as well, and those were getting installed. Okay, but still really good joules per terahash for them. And I don't see a problem with them getting through the bear market there. Next one is going to be really quick here. Mawson. Okay, Mawson's at 63 cents. Market cap is at 10 million right now. Shares outstanding 16 million. Future exahash 1.79. They said they're going to be growing a little bit more here, but we'll talk about them here in a second. P multiple of 5. That would get us to about 257 million in market cap, which would be a huge increase for them. They are way beaten down because they do have some issues here, and we'll talk about them here shortly. But that would get us to a low end of $7.18 to a high end of $10.76. On the higher end, we're looking at $10.40 to $15.59, and the average would be $10.88. Multiples would be 11.4 to 24.8. Average would be 17.4. I think these are very, very generous numbers there for them. And we'll take a look at the reasons why here. But Mawson has had issues ever since last year where they had to sell their facilities. They sold the facilities miners and things like that. They sold part of it to Cleanspark. But here's what we got. Debt to equity ratio is at 0.87. We want to see that a little bit lower than the current ratio. We want to see that much, much higher there at 0.32. So definitely a lot of debt there. You can see 47.89 million in debt. Current assets only 15.6 million. Their price to mine one Bitcoin in Q2 was 18.4. So we're looking at about 37,000 for Bitcoin at the end of having to be at the halving event. And then when we look at their miners here, this is where we see trouble. So looking at the miners here, it looks like they're going to be at about 31.64 joules per terahash. They have a lot of these 90 terahash miners here and 85 terahash miners. They have a lot of older miners here that I think they're going to have to probably do something about, get those upgraded or something, because, and I think these numbers here might be even kind of low as far as the wattage that I'm using here, based on the numbers that they provided here. But I'm giving them, well, I don't know exactly what those numbers are. Based on what they reported, those are numbers that I got, and it looks like those are all the same here for all of those, which is kind of hard to figure out exactly what they have. But 31, I think they're going to be probably even higher than that, probably around 33, 34, based on some of these numbers that they do have here. Okay, so that's a concern there. That is a concern. Their growth is a concern. And on the operation side of things, they do curtail a lot as well. I mean, 17 days, roughly 20 days here in August. Well, August numbers we haven't gotten yet. We're still waiting on August numbers. But right now in July, they were at 19.68 days mining as well. Okay, so that one is a concern there. I think that's why it's been beaten down and investors are just worried. That's why they're not really getting into it. And then let's take a look at Riot here. So we got a couple more to go through and we'll be done. Riot's at $10.95 right now. Market cap 2 billion. Shares outstanding 185 million. Future hash rate is actually supposed to be around 30. That they bought 20. That they could get to 30, but they did buy enough to right now to get to 20 exahash. P multiple of 20. Future market cap would be 13 billion right now. And for Riot, I'm using, actually, I think I put it down below in my notes, but I'm using 75 and 95% gross profit margin because of them selling energy back. They do have better margins than others. That helps them out tremendously, and I think that's why they're being valued the way that they are. I'm still trying to figure out a good way to value that, the credits that they get. It does obviously improve their bottom line here. So that's why I did that. So we're looking at the lower end of $38.67 to $48.98. On the higher end, between $56.01 and $70.85, and the average would be $53.65. P multiple 3.5 here, or not P, X multiple 3.5x, 6.5x on the higher end, 4.9 on the average. And I think they could actually get more than that based on if they continue to grow to the 20. And they also have the other business lines. Hosting has been, well, it's been a money-losing business for them. Hopefully they can get out of that shortly. And the other one is the engineering part of things. That's also bringing in some money as well. So they do have a lot of revenue getting into them. So obviously, like I said, Bitcoin going up higher, you could definitely get at least probably a 35, 40 multiple or a PE on them at the all-time highs. So it could definitely impact that number where they could be at much higher values here. Okay, now as far as Riot is concerned, there's really not much concern there for Riot. Debt to equity is really low, 0.05 now, which is great to see. Current ratio is nicely right, 6.5, so no problem there. Cost to mine one Bitcoin was at 13.3 thousand at the end of Q2 here. That's 26,000 at the halving that they would need it to be. Total current assets, plenty of those. Total current liabilities are pretty low, no problem there. Their efficiency on miners looks like they're going to be about 26.27 once everything is installed, and that is including everything here. Yep. So that's what we have here. They are getting some of these MicroBT M56++ miners. Those are 230 terahash miners. Those are liquid cooled. So that's going to be coming in later on in the first half of 2024. That's how they get there to 26.27. They do have some of these 90 terahash miners as well. I wouldn't be surprised if they maybe get rid of those eventually. And then we'll get them even more efficient going forward. But then they do have a lot of these 140 terahash miners, which are really efficient. So that helps them out. The 110 terahash miners as well are pretty good there also. Okay. So no problems with Riot here getting through the halving event and where they might end up at. I think they might be ending up a lot higher than where I have them listed actually. Okay, Sphere 3D is at $1.49 right now. Market cap 17 million. Shares outstanding 11.9 million. Future exahash 1.8. P multiple of 5. Future market cap 231 million. And then the below targets would be $8.87 to $13.45. On the higher end, $12.89 to $19.49. Average would be $13.72. So low end multiple would be 6x, and the high end would be 13.1x. Average would be 9.2. So still pretty good increase there for them. Concern with them is obviously going to be their balance sheet and things like that. Their cost to mine, if we look at Sphere 3D here, we can see that their debt to equity is not too bad. It's 0.456. The current ratio has been coming down here, which is concerned. They've been burning through cash there. Their current assets have also been coming down. Total current liabilities has been increasing actually. And their cost to mine one Bitcoin has been going up. So they're at 22,000 right now, which would make it 44,000 for them to break even, or at least on the gross profit margin part of things. Excuse me. So that's a concern there. Their miner efficiency here is actually, let's see if we're using the right numbers here. I need to bring this down as well. There we go, 29.5 on average joules per terahash right now. So that's not too bad. They're below the 30 mark, which is good to see. And the only thing is the cost. The cost to mine Bitcoin is really high for them. They need to bring that down. They need to bring down also their current general administrative costs, other costs. They need to become as lean as possible before the event, because otherwise they are going to be in serious trouble if they don't do that. They don't have much of a hodl position either to really get them through it. The only thing they could possibly do is dilute more shares if that's the case for them. Okay. So with Sphere, let's take a look at Stronghold. Stronghold right now is at $4.58, market cap 33 million. Shares outstanding 7.3 million, roughly 4.1 exahash is the future. They're supposed to, I think they said they're trying to get to a 5 or 6 exahash by the time everything's said and done. So they still need to buy more, but they haven't bought more. P of 5, future market cap potential 710 million. And then the price targets here for them are actually $44.21 on the low end to $66.32. On the higher end, $64.05 to $96.07. The average would be $67.66. X multiple increase of 9.7 to 21. I don't think those are going to get there, and I'll share with you guys why. And the average would be 14.8. So if we look at Stronghold here really quick, Stronghold is there. Okay, Stronghold. If you look at their debt to equity ratio, it's above 1.15. Their current ratio is 0.59. We can see that their total current assets has been coming down. Total current liabilities has also been coming down, but their cost to mine one Bitcoin is at 30,000. They need Bitcoin at 60,000 right now based on the numbers that they provided. And I'll show you guys what I mean here. So if we look at the cost to mine one Bitcoin minus depreciation, we're looking at how much they mine in the quarter, dividing it by the number down here, which is calculated crypto mining expenses, 19 million here in the last quarter for them. And that's based on the percentage of self-mining, because they do have energy, cryptocurrency hosting, cryptocurrency mining, and things like that. So I'm trying to figure that out. They don't provide that for us, so this is the kind of numbers that we have to go with. But all I'm using here is fuel, operations, and general administrative. We could possibly take out general administrative on that. Operating and maintenance, so that'd be a little bit 10 million less. So that might, I mean, well, either way, general administrative is definitely huge on here. 10 million, that's a lot on them. So that's obviously a concern. Now that would be obviously pretty much a full in cost for everything, except for depreciation, some of the non-cash things here on the table as well. So definitely we need to bring that down quite a bit here. And if they brought that down to roughly well, closer to 20,000, that wouldn't be so bad. It'd still be 40,000 for Bitcoin, but right now it's at 60,000 all in almost. Without general administrative, we're looking at possibly right around 20,000, I think, per Bitcoin. So that's still pretty high, 40,000 at the halving event. So that's definitely going to be an issue. As far as their miner fleet efficiency, I don't have that number here because I don't know what they had here as far as prior numbers. So I have to do some research into them as far as what they have. The newer miners they're getting are a little bit more efficient. The 100 terahash miners, I'd have to look into as far as if those were Bitmains or somebody else's and what the watts per terahash was to calculate that. So that's a little bit of missing information there that I need to catch up on. Okay. That's it for that one. And let's take a look at our Stronghold and then finally Terawulf. Okay. So Terawulf is $1.80 right now, market cap 398 million, shares outstanding 221, future exahash 7.9. They said they're going to try growing more beyond that. PE multiple of 20 because they do have still pretty good growth left in them. Future market cap would be about 5.9 billion here. Low end targets here would be $12.45 to $18.67. Excuse me. On the higher end, we're looking at $18.03 to $27.05, and the average would be $19.05. Multiple X multiple would be 6.9 on the lower end, 15x on the high end, and then 10.6 on the average here for them. The concern with them also is a little bit of their debt. So if we look at their debt here, debt to equity is at 1.22. I'd love to see that be lower, and then their current ratio is at 0.17. So that has come down here. I'd love to see that be above 1. But if you look at the total current assets, it's at 14 million here, and they got 81 million here in current liabilities. So basically, anything that they mine, they are basically selling it just to pay down debt, pay operations, things like that. So I believe they don't have a HODL. Yeah, they don't have a HODL here, which I was correctly thinking. As far as the miners here are concerned, joules per terahash, pretty good. 25.01 efficiency here on the miners, which is really good. They need to grow some more possibly between now and the halving event. And really need to get their costs in line here. If we look at some of their costs here for let me see here, operating expenses, selling and general administrative expenses combined for related party and everything else is pretty high up there. I'd love to see those things come down. Total cost of operation was 16 million so they need to really kind of tighten the belt here as far as costs are on operations, things like that. Get it as lean as possible. And that goes for everybody here on all the miners. Okay, so that's going through all the miners here that we saw that I have numbers on. And then this will obviously be available to my Patreon members here. Here are all the numbers down here that I had. BitDeer, like I said, I was using the, let's see like I said, some of the notes, 35% on gross profit margin instead of the 50, and then using the 55 here instead of the 75% on them. What other notes do we have here? Core. Shares outstanding, like I said, multiply that by 1.5 to get 50% more into it. Hut 8 is 98 million after the merger. Marathon added the 26 million there. Riot, like I said, using 75.75 or 75% from gross income because of their curtailment and the energy credits that they get to 95%, giving a little bit boost there because of that. But yeah, that's kind of how things played out. You guys can obviously see this chart here as well, or this table as well. See how things stacked up on everything and how I work things out. So big takeaways here is obviously we don't know where things are going to get to with Bitcoin price going up in the next, we're looking basically out almost 2 years now from where we are now. So that's tough. We could say that we could get to the 288 or 278,000 or the 188,000 sometime between now and next in 2 years, but we don't know when that's going to be. Was it going to be at the end of it? Could it be somewhere closer to maybe a year after the halving event? It's tough. So these are just really generic numbers as far as where we could see the miners at if Bitcoin goes to those values sometime in the next 2 years. But we could go up higher in Bitcoin, we could go lower in Bitcoin, right? That's why we're using two numbers here. The 188 is the number that I thought originally. And then with looking at some of the spot Bitcoin ETF interest and everything else, if we get all the world's assets under management putting in at least 1% into it, the follow-on effect of that, everybody else buying into it as well, could be much greater than that. So 278,000 there possibly. But it's just easy. It's easy to run the numbers, but it's hard to figure out where things are going to be at. So those are a lot of assumptions, like I said, in there. Let me know what you guys think of all of these numbers. Like I said, these numbers are going to be available to my Patreon members here by the end of the day. Probably get these updated after I get this video uploaded. And like I still have to, for the YouTube members, I still have to provide you guys with the screenshots of everything as well. So that is it for now, at least. I think I got all of the information here that I needed. Let me know what you guys think. If you guys agree, disagree on the numbers, and I think we'll call it a day. So I hope you guys have a wonderful Sunday, and I'll see you guys tomorrow on Monday, see what happens then. All right.